Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Kim Owen. We warmly welcome the family of Private George Edward Sidney Godfrey, whose story will be told shortly. We warmly welcome the delegation from the World Lebanese Cultural Union and members of the Lebanese Forces Canberra branch. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. For those who are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just two brothers on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and in operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private George Edward Sydney Godfrey. George Godfrey was born in Middlesex, England on the 8th of May 1919, the son of George Anthony Thomas Godfrey and Harriet Selina Godfrey. George travelled to Australia when he was less than 1 year old. His family made a home in Wagon in Western Australia, where he was the eldest of 7 children. Growing up alongside his siblings, Ruth, Thomas, Malcolm, Ronald, Edward and Peter, he attended the local school and became an integral member of the local community. George was a member of the Wagon Town Band from a young age and played at events with his father, who had been a bugler during the First World War. When George turned 16, he joined a committee to help organise dances, which were held fortnightly. He was also a keen member of the Wagon Cycle Club. With the coming of the Second World War, 21-year-old George Godfrey enlisted for service in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 20th of July 1940. After a brief period of treatment for the mumps, Private Godfrey joined the 2nd 28th Infantry Battalion at Northam Camp on the 11th of September 1940. Having begun training in October, he was charged with failing to appear at a place of parade and was confined to barracks for 7 days as punishment. A month later, he was again charged with failing to appear at a place of parade and was admonished. After a visit home to farewell family and friends during pre-embarkation leave in December, Private Godfrey embarked from Fremantle on the 3rd of January 1941, bound for overseas service. George had somewhat of an unpleasant journey, being admitted to the ship's hospital with a double ear infection. In Egypt, Godfrey and his comrades disembarked at Port Tewfik in Suez before travelling by train to Palestine, where they went into Camp Gaza, north of Gaza, to complete their training. In March, Godfrey and the 2nd 28th joined the 9th Division in garrisoning the area of Tobruk. The situation quickly changed in April when the German Afrika Korps pushed back British forces. The 9th Division withdrew to Tobruk and defended Fortress Tobruk. George and his unit took part in defensive duties, manning parts of the Red Line, working on the Blue Line, and aggressively patrolling no man's land. He was accidentally injured in mid-July 1941, but after treatment for burns on his arms, leg and back, he returned to help defend Tobruk before withdrawing to Alexandria in late September. Throughout early 1942, the 2nd 28th served in a garrison role in Syria and Lebanon as part of the occupation force. Godfrey, who was said to be an excellent bugler, was particularly remembered for playing the full version of Reveille for his mates, the sound of which would reverberate around the mountains in Lebanon. The bugle George played had been handed down from his father, who had been a bugler during the First World War. All of this was interrupted in mid-1942 as German and Italian forces began advancing towards Egypt. By the end of June, Rommel had forced the Allies back deep into Egypt, and the capture of Cairo and the Suez Canal seemed to be a very real possibility. The 9th Division, of which George's battalion was part, was hurriedly recalled to help check their progress. The Allies pinned their hopes on their new defensive position near the tiny railway stop of El Alamein. Here, the battlefield narrowed between the coast and the impassable feature known as the Katara Depression. Rommel, wanting to maintain the pressure, made another thrust on the 1st of July hoping to dislodge the British 8th Army from the Alamein position and open the way to Cairo and Suez. The Allies, however, had regrouped sufficiently to repulse the attack and make some counterattacks of their own. Before dawn on the 10th of July, the 9th Division launched an attack on the northern flank and took the high ground around Tal Alesia. This caught Rommel off guard, as he had concentrated his forces for his own offensive in the south. The Australians spent the next few days fighting off heavy counterattacks as Rommel redirected much of his forces against them. When the fighting died down at the end of July, despite taking severe losses, the Allies could take some comfort knowing that they had stopped Rommel's drive into Egypt. Private Godfrey, however, would not be alive to celebrate. On the night of the 22nd to the 23rd of July, the 2nd 28th Battalion made an advance to capture Ruin Ridge, a key position to the south. Accompanied by British tanks, all seemed to be going well at first, but ultimately the attempt was unsuccessful, with enemy resistance stiffening and the attackers coming up well short of their objectives. Casualties steadily mounted. Hit by shrapnel that night, Private George Godfrey was initially reported missing. He was found the next morning and retrieved, but died of his wounds on the 23rd of July, 1942. He was 23 years old. Today, his remains lie buried in the El Alamein War Cemetery, underneath the inscription chosen by his grieving family: a gallant soldier and a dearly loved son. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private George Edward Sidney Godfrey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.